came over about something else, and kind of out of the blue, he asked me about the whooping cough vaccine. And my wife actually had a miscarriage recently, and it reminded me with the iodine. She didn't like the taste of the X2. I'm going to try the original survival seed. She preferred the taste of that. That's kind of a completely separate issue. But he mentioned the whooping cough, and I can tell, and this is the whole thing, where his concern for me and his concern for my well-being, and ultimately for our future child's well-being, that comes off as, somehow if I am against the vaccine, well, then how about my wife? She's the better half. What does she say about it? So you can't just say, well, I'm against vaccines, or even I'm against mercury in vaccines. You almost have to go step by step through some phenomenological explanation of what the child goes through, because I've had eyewitness reports. I've spoken to a father who told me point blank he watched the light go out in his child's eyes, but and I said, well, it can be reversed. They're trying to be optimistic, and he says, well, yeah, but my wife, she doesn't think we should do that, or she thinks it was God's will, or he didn't really say. I was like, I kind of threw that.
No, it's modern human sacrifice. Look, there's no reason to take a hepatitis shot for a child. They're extremely dangerous. The government quietly pays off vaccine-damaged kids. It's a huge cover-up. And so we're going to come back and get Dr. Group's breakdown on that and take a few final calls straight ahead. But yes, they are pushing vaccines now on pregnant women. They know what they're doing, but they can't admit they're wrong. Hayden Hewitt, the founder of LiveLeak.com, that reaches billions of live streams a year, hundreds of millions of people, has really helped us get the word out and opened up our streams to reach millions of people at Bilderberg coverage and other events. One time we had over 2 million people on the line. At one time, we had 3 million people watch over the next 2 days. And that's something that definitely scares the establishment. He's going to be joining us here in about 10 minutes talking about attacks on the First Amendment, not just here in the U.S., but free speech overseas, how the TPP attacks free speech according to the WikiLeaks documents, and more. But I want to try to get to 4 or 5 of these calls, Felicia, Mike, Jim, Tim, and others before Dr. Group has to leave. But the last caller was just desperate, talking about having a child and the doctor trying to bully him to give vaccines and then trying to go to his wife to get her to do it. It's just crazy how they're pushing the vaccine so aggressively right now.
Yeah, and flu shots and vaccines. I mean, you can get them in a grocery store now and get 10% off your total bill. It's one of those controversial subjects where you just have to do your own research. I mean, I tell people, don't believe me. Go type in vaccine dangers in Google, and you'll find plenty of information.
The MMR shot says it can give you type 1 diabetes.
Well, they can give you a lot more than that. I mean, all vaccines and flu shots, if you look at all the different ingredients inside of them, look, just go in and type in vaccine ingredients and take each one of them, and you'll see that they change your DNA, RNA, they alter your mental ability, they can cause cancer, they can cause all different types of symptoms, mental retardation.
And they're being manufactured by these big, evil pharmaceutical companies that, I mean, Bayer makes vaccines. They got caught for over a decade sending out factor VIII for hemophiliacs that they knew had HIV and hepatitis in it. It was a death sentence.
It's exactly opposite of your immune system. Your immune system, what you're designed with in your body, your self-healing mechanism is designed to do the best work at fighting viruses, bacteria, keeping your body strong and healthy. What they do, a vaccine is nothing more than a shot to kill your own not natural system or to reduce your own immune system. And your immune system has to work extra hard because it has to fight all the chemicals and toxins that are in the vaccine or the flu shot to begin with. So, I mean, if you dig deep enough, you can even see that they list the dangers on the CDC's website, the FDA, the pharmaceutical manufacturers of the vaccines, the inserts.
But then they lie to the public and say safe and effective.
Yeah, it's right there in plain sight. You just have to stop and say, wait a second, why am I going to? I mean, that's the main situation that we're dealing with now with food, beverages, water, exposure to any of these things is people don't just say, wait, let me see what's in this beverage before I drink it. Let me see what's in this food before I eat it. Let me research what's in this vaccine or flu shot before I stick it in my body.
That's right. All right, I want to go through these calls. Mike in Arizona, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. I was thinking of an idea for a product that would help maybe come off Oxycontins or pain medicine. I know a lot of people that struggle with it, I myself, and I've been trying for a really long time, and I know everything that I've read says to ease off of it, but by the time you ease off of it and the medicine starts to work again, and then you just take more. I don't know if Dr. Group could suggest a regimen to come off of them.
Boy, this is a big question, the age-old thing of how to get off opiates. Whoever figures that out is going to, win the Nobel Prize. Well, actually, get the Nobel Prize for committing evil now, so I guess you wouldn't. You'd probably get assassinated. But I know there are things you can do with supplements. There are herbs and things I know that they've proven can help block some of the addiction, and that even Big Pharma is trying to patent some of that now. Dr. Group, what would you do to get off, say, hillbilly heroin, Oxycontin?
Well, we've actually had a lot of good success with that, and it all stems back to cleansing the body, starting with intestinal cleansing with oxy powder and then moving on to liver and gallbladder cleansing, because you have to remember those pain medications will cause you to become constipated. And once you clean
why do opiates do that? Because I've never really taken them except when I had a broken leg or whatever. But I always hear about heroin heads and people, like, don't go to the bathroom but every 2 weeks.
Well, because it alters the neurological contractions or the normal contractions of the muscles that surround the intestinal lining. It kind of numbs the nerves. That's why they're pain medications, because they numb the nerves so you can't feel the pain. Well, you have tiny thousands and millions of these little nerve endings all the way down through your intestinal lining. So because you're taking an opiate, because you're taking medications, most likely the majority of people that are taking pain medications or any medications are not eating healthy. These things numb the nerves. They leak through the intestinal lining through leaky gut syndrome, and then you become constipated because you're not able to create that normal peristaltic movement in the bowel.
What a nightmare drug.
Yes, but you can eventually get off of those. One of the things, vitamin D, like the winter sun, it's amazing what that does for healing joint. And I don't know why you're in pain to begin with, but some of the newest research that's come out on 20,000 IUs of vitamin D, there was a research scientist that wrote a book called The Miraculous Healing Benefits of D3, actually found that high doses of D3 can help heal all of those injuries.
Well, sure. For folks that don't know, because I did my own research, isn't D3 a master base hormone? I mean, it's basically a hormone, and that you have to have it to produce and manufacture your hormones, and that's the same thing for basically B12, right?
Yes, actually D3 is a hormone, and I really didn't think it was that necessary. I figured we were getting enough in the sun. But as our research continued, I realized that there was also a conspiracy or an attack on blocking the UVB rays with all the chemtrails, and that pretty much we're all deficient or not getting enough D in the body as well. But that led me to looking at, there's thousands upon thousands of studies on the effects of D, and that's another thing I think everybody is deficient in and everybody needs. So I would highly recommend, if anyone's on prescription medications, whether it's pain medications or whatever, there are solutions. And one thing with opiates is you have to get off of gluten when you're slowly through it's called time contingent detoxification. You don't want to cold turkey it. You want to slowly start reducing it over a period of time.
Wow, this is really important. I want to have you on for a whole show about gluten, because even in mainline literature, they admit now that it mimics opiates. That's a whole other subject. How is grain mimicking poppy seeds?
It's just they're just finding new things about it all the time. I mean, I can't remember the chemical name of it, but yeah, I was just not too long ago reading some information that gluten actually does have an opiate-like compound in it, and that's what makes bread so addictive.
That's why it makes you so calm and feel so good when you eat a big, loaf of bread at the steakhouse.
Exactly. And you also go through withdrawals when you get off of it. It makes you crave it again, so you get more and more of it. So that's something that needs to be
amazing. We've got to go in a few minutes because our next guest is coming up. Dr. Rip, I appreciate all your time. Let's move quickly now to Felicia in Oregon. And again, they've got the call thing way back, so I can barely read. I'm not complaining. It's just that's why I'm butchering the names. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hi. About a year ago, after starting the X2, I developed symptoms that almost resulted in surgery. But it ended up I had Hashimoto's, and I was told that the iodine is what made that condition flare, the autoimmune response to start. And I wanted to know what your opinion was and if I could resume taking iodine, and if not, how can I keep that part of my system straight?
Well, I don't know too much about your history and everything, but I have not heard, and I also refer to Dr. Brownstein's research on Hashimoto's, hypothyroidism, and hyperthyroidism, and I haven't had a case, I don't think Dr. Brownstein has either, of iodine, a good source of iodine, ever causing a thyroid condition that would require any type of surgery or anything like that. So I don't know how much you were taking. As a matter of fact, just the opposite. We've seen people, what happens, it really takes about 6 months is what we've seen to regulate out the thyroid, because what happens is the bromine starts releasing, and the other halogens, which can alter different types of thyroid function.
I was about to say, if it makes your body push out all the toxins that have built up, and we know that it hits women harder, then that could have been the response, kind of like cleaning a filter out. I mean, if you ever clean the filter in your fish tank, you do it wrong, it dumps all the crap into the fish tank. And so, I mean, that's why I've said that people should consult their physician before using this stuff, because you got all these bad halogens in there, and you're now going to be messing with that. Who knows?
What happens is when you start taking it, you might have hypothyroid, you might have hyper, you might have Hashimoto's for a period of time, and that's just your thyroid getting rid of anything. The problem is that the doctors, when they do thyroid panels, or when they do, most doctors never test for iodine anyway, but even the ones that do, they don't test for bromine. So you get false positive results. And so in order to rebalance the thyroid...
Exactly. They don't test for the bad halogens. They'll blame iodine because you've got so much of the other stuff in you. I read about that.
So probably...
Because, again, that's medical doctors that are always, and of course Brownstein is a medical doctor, but who just don't understand it.
So probably at that one point in time, you went in to have your thyroid checked or something. I don't know what happened. And Hashimoto's is nothing more than a roller coaster of your thyroid going up and down, which is completely normal in a lot of times with people starting on iodine. So they might have, misdiagnosed you or might have said,
Ma'am, I appreciate your call. We're out of time, but that's a really important question, because I'll be in restaurants, I'll be at church, I'll be just everywhere for years, and I see women talking about their thyroids, young, old. I see women everywhere who aren't fat but have the swollen goiter like we had in the 20s and 30s when we didn't have iodine in the salt. And of course, they've taken it out again. Why is it hitting women? And of course, they admit that in the news, that women are more heavily hit than others by thyroid problems. Why is there an epidemic of that?
Well, women have a larger thyroid gland anyway, and iodine really likes to deposit itself in the reproductive areas. And women have breasts, which are, a lot more surface area than guys, and so iodine likes to accumulate in there. Women have their menstrual cycles, which are changes in their hormonal patterns, and if they don't have enough iodine, they can have, harder symptoms of PMS, endometriosis. Any of the women just have a tendency to have more reproductive problems than men. They have ovaries, they have eggs, they have a whole cycle that goes on all the time. So iodine deficiency really affects women a lot more than it does men.
Well, again, everybody's body is different. Is it possible, because people can be allergic to, cabbage. They can be allergic to anything. Is it possible that's why I always say check with a physician, that some people could be allergic to pure iodine? Because, I mean, I know you'll die without it, but...
So I don't think if you have a receptor on every single cell in your body for a substance that you